Hi there, it's me, Audrina again, with the next instalment from Where Did Your Heart Go? And here we are already on chapter 28, so let's get started. Charlotte wondered how her mum had got off so lightly, but vowed to remember this should she ever say anything in the future about her and Mitchell. As she thought of Mitchell, a text came through on her phone. "Check your emails, I have a proposal for you." She laid down the diary and fired up her laptop. As she read and reread his email, she hugged herself excitedly and then pressed call on her phone and waited for him to answer. The organisers of the dance competition wanted submissions for a group or individuals to dance, while the judges made their final decision, and Mitchell wanted the two of them to dance together. "Hi, Mitch," Charlie said. "Hi, Charlie, it's lovely to speak to you," he said. She went weak at the knees just listening to the deep softness of his voice and the way her name sounded when he said it. "So what do you think?" he asked. "It's a yes, definitely yes. We can start practising when I come over to yours on Saturday. It's going to be tough. They want a recorded submission by the end of next week, so we probably only have this weekend to do it. I'll get my brother Darren to film it for us. Are you up for some hard work?" "Definitely, as long as you don't shout at me too much." "I'll try not to. I have been told I can be a bit of a hard taskmaster." Charlotte blushed, her mind stirring up other images his words suggested. "So what shall we dance, so I can start to practice now?" she asked, eager to hear what he had in mind. "I thought we could do the routine from Dirty Dancing, and, of course, the lift." Charlotte's whole body tingled with the anticipation of being in Mitch's arms again, lifted into the air, soaring weightless above him and the world below. "Great, I'd love to dance that with you." "Hey, if they pick us, I could always tip the wink to my group and yours and see if they want to join in at the end, just like the film," he replied, the eagerness in his voice matched by Charlie's reply. "Oh yes, I'm sure they would. But we need to get picked first before we fly off with more plans like that." "Great, I'm really looking forward to seeing you at the weekend. Is there any chance your mum will let you come up on Friday night instead, as I can come and fetch you then instead of Saturday morning?" "I'll ask her later and let you know." "Cool, I'll be waiting." Rushing downstairs, Charlotte almost slipped over as she slid into the kitchen. "Mum, is it okay for me to go to Mitchell's on Friday night instead of Saturday?" Steph stood there and let her daughter stew for a few minutes as she pretended to contemplate her request. "Of course you can," she replied, watching her tap out a text to Mitchell. A few minutes later a beep returned the reply, and Charlie's face broke into a broad grin. "So what's the secret?" "I can't say, but it's to do with a dance competition and I need to go and start practising now, ready for Friday. Is it okay for me to use the lounge as it's bigger than my bedroom?" Charlie found the Dirty Dancing DVD and located the end of the film as she sat cross-legged on the floor. She studied the routine intently 3 or 4 times before she put her iPod in the docking station, and the familiar strains of "I've Had the Time of My Life" started. Kicking off her slippers, she closed her eyes and started to run through the basics of the dance in her mind, her feet and body feeling the music as the beat bounced through the room and into her pores. Then, with the film on at the same time, Charlie opened her eyes and began to practice the basic samba steps, her arms outstretched and holding the invisible body of Mitch. Charlotte rushed home from college on Friday evening. She couldn't wait to see Mitchell and was shocked to see his bike already in the driveway as she turned the corner, immediately quickening her pace. "Hi Mum, hi Mitch," Charlie said as she entered the house. "Hi Charlie," they both replied, and Steph asked, "How was college?" "Good, thanks," Charlie replied before turning her attention to Mitchell. "You're early." "Yeah, I thought we needed to get started," he replied. "I've just been telling Stephanie what we're planning to do." "Yeah, it sounds ambitious, but from what I saw of the two of you the other week, I'm positive you can both do it," Steph said, encouraging them. "I'll go and get changed and grab my bag," Charlotte said, walking towards the door. "I think you might need this," Mitch said, reaching down and producing a parcel. "I believe it's your birthday next week." He smiled as he passed it over. Charlie undid the ribbon and paper to reveal a set of motorbike leathers in black and red. She held them up against her as Mitchell said, "I hope they fit okay. If not, I can take them back and exchange them." "I'll go and try them on," Charlotte replied, quickly giving Mitch a kiss on the cheek before running upstairs. 10 minutes later she appeared in the doorway, looking like a real biker chick, beaming from ear to ear. "How do I look?" she asked, her gaze falling to Mitchell, who could hardly speak as he took in her tight leather trousers and jacket that hugged her curves in all the right places. "Like you're ready to go," he said, a noticeable catch in his voice. "You look great, Charlie," Steph enthused, "and at least I know you'll be safe on the journey to Mitchell's, but you must give me a call when you get there." "OK, Mum, I will." Charlie struggled to put her rucksack on her back, so Mitch gave her a helping hand. Steph watched them fly off the drive, and they were gone. As they flew along the roads and motorways towards the Midlands, Charlotte hung on tightly to Mitchell's waist and marvelled at the way her body fitted to his, both of them moving as one with the bike. When they pulled up into the driveway, she was quite pleased to get off, as her body had just started to stiffen up. Mitchell helped her, and then as she removed her helmet, he reached for it and put it aside, so he could pull her into his arms. "I've wanted to do this ever since you walked through the door of your house," he murmured. "But even more so when you came down in your leathers." His lips came down and met hers. Just as Charlie was relaxing into his embrace, they were interrupted by a loud voice. "Will you put her down?" someone exclaimed, and they both turned to see Darren standing at the door. "Hi, bro," Mitch said. "This is Charlotte. Charlotte, this is Darren." All of a sudden, barks started to echo around the hallway, and a huge black Labrador came bounding towards them, stopping and lying down directly in front of Charlotte for a belly rub. She knelt down and ran her hands over his warm fur. "Who's this then?" she asked. "Jester," Mitch said as he bent down next to her, their fingertips touching as Jester got twice the attention. "Is Dad around?" Mitch asked. "No, he's still out, but he mentioned getting some fish and chips in for supper," Darren said, as they all entered the kitchen, and he flicked the switch on the kettle. "What are you doing later?" Darren asked as he lounged back against the worktop. "Ooh, we have an appointment with a DVD, and then an early night as we'll be dancing tomorrow," Mitch replied. They picked up their coffee mugs. "Come on, let me show you around," he said to Charlotte. She followed Mitch and Jester down the hallway and into the lounge and dining room, before he opened the patio door and they stepped out into the garden. Jester bounded on ahead of them, seeming to know exactly where they were going. "Come on, I promised Nan and Gramps that I'd introduce you to them," he said. They walked down the garden and through some apple trees to find a small chalet-style house nestling at the bottom of the garden. The main house used to be theirs, but when my parents split up we came to live with them, and then they built this a few years ago, Mitch said. "Mitchell," his Nan exclaimed as they got closer to the chalet. "Nan, this is Charlotte," he said, as Charlie extended her hand, only to find herself pulled into an embrace. "Call me Pam," she asked as she stepped away, "and this is Peter." An older version of her mum's ex-boyfriend stepped forward and shook her hand. "It's great to meet you. Mitchell has been talking about you non-stop," he said, as Charlie blushed and looked over to Mitch, who was smiling back at her. "I can see the likeness to Stephanie," Pam said, looking Charlotte up and down. "You told them?" Charlotte exclaimed. "Yes, I was trying to do some research. Hope you don't mind." "Oh, we love Stephanie. We were heartbroken when James told us they'd split up." "How is your mum?" Peter asked. "Fine, thanks," Charlie replied, unsure what else she could say, as she wondered if her mum was still heartbroken about the whole affair. As they walked back up the garden, Charlotte turned to Mitchell. "Have you said anything to your dad?" she asked. "No, not yet. I thought I'd wait until we had got a bit further with the diaries." "OK, that's a plan. I'm up to the September entries, so based on your brother's birth, I must be getting closer." "Well, enough speculation. Let's get your bag upstairs. And much as I love you in the leathers, they aren't the most comfortable things to stay in," Mitchell grinned, and Charlie followed him back in the house and upstairs. Once again, deja vu hit her as she stepped into Mitchell's room and spotted the same shelf arrangement above the bed, as described in her mum's diaries. It seemed it was just the decor had changed. "You're in here with me, unless you'd rather go in the spare room?" he asked, placing her rucksack on the floor. He started to unzip her jacket so his hand could reach around and pull her close. "Now where were we?" he breathed, his lips brushing her cheek on the way to meeting her lips. "Here is perfect," she breathed in between kisses, running her hands over his chest and then wrapping them around his neck. When they parted, she reached down to undo the leather trousers and started to wiggle out of them. "Lie on the bed and I'll pull them off," Mitchell said, laughing at her struggles. "OK," Charlie lay back on the soft duvet and tried not to get distracted by the scent of him wafting up from the pillow, a scent that was hard to mistake. He pulled them off, but before she could sit up, he pinned her down, staring into her eyes. "You are so fucking sexy," he murmured, his voice so low it was like a rumble. She lowered her eyelashes and at the same time parted her lips slightly. Mitch needed no further invitation as his lips greeted hers, his tongue probing her mouth as she reciprocated. Felt like heaven. Before any more clothes could come off, they heard a door shut downstairs and further barking from Jester. Mitchell reluctantly pulled back and they both sat up. She looked at his hair all tousled from her fingers raking through it, while they kissed, his bright green eyes staring at her, mirroring her own feelings of lust. "Darren, Mitchell, are you home?" came a voice, sounding like Mitchell but slightly lighter in timbre. "Yes, Dad," they heard Darren reply. "Yes, Dad, be down in a minute," Mitchell shouted, pulling Charlie off the bed, helping her straighten the t-shirt that had ridden up over her stomach. As he did this, he lightly ran his finger along the waistband of her leggings and pulled her to him for a last kiss that left Charlotte reeling from the heat racing through her nerve endings. "Do I look okay?" she asked when he let her go. "You look fabulous, darling," he intoned, doing his best impression of Craig Revel Horwood from Strictly Come Dancing. This made Charlie laugh and lighten the mood from serious to fun. "Come on, let's go, as I'm starving." Downstairs she was confronted by a sight that made her inhale sharply. He still looked almost the same as he did in the photo her mum had of him from 24 years ago. Hair short and still blonde, plus a slim, muscular physique. Apart from some wrinkles around the eyes, she could see why her mum had fallen for him in the first place, and why she'd fallen for his son. "Dad, this is Charlotte. Charlotte, my dad James," Mitchell said, stepping aside so his dad could see her standing in the doorway. James did a double take and she noted his quick intake of breath. Had he guessed who she was? She wondered as he reached out and shook her hand. She felt it shake slightly under her grasp as he looked her up and down once more. "So you're the dancer from Ross that Mitchell's been talking about." "You remind me of someone I used to know," he said. His voice trailed off as his mind seemed taken by memories lurking there. Charlotte looked across at Mitchell and shook her head. Luckily he understood perfectly that now was not the right time to say anything more. They were startled by Charlie's phone as she pulled it from her pocket. It was her mum. She ducked into the hallway and quickly apologised before saying goodbye and returning to the kitchen. The smell of fish and chips irresistible as James plated them up and they sat down at the kitchen table. So, secrets are being revealed, and I hope you're really interested in what's going to happen next. If you want to read ahead, you can download my book for free from my website, which is www.audrinalane.co.uk, or you can buy it from Amazon, as it's there as an ebook or now as a paperback. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Keep listening, and I will be talking to you and reading to you again next week. Bye for now.